Γεια σας και καλώς ήρθατε στο euronews. Εξαιρετικά δύσκολη παραμένει η κατάσταση για τον άμαχο πληθυσμό στη Λωρίδα της Γάζας. Χιλιάδες άνθρωποι εξακολουθούν να μην έχουν πρόσβαση σε φαγητό και καθαρό νερό, ενώ πολλοί τραυματίες και ασθενείς δεν λαμβάνουν την κατάλληλη ιατρική φροντίδα. Οι γιατροί χωρίς σύνορα βρίσκονται στο πεδίο από την πρώτη στιγμή. Για την κατάσταση που επικρατεί θα συνομιλήσουμε με τον Γενικό Διευθυντή της οργάνωσης, Κρίστοφερ Λοκγίαρ. Thank you for being with us. What is the current situation in Rafah and the immediate needs in Gaza?
Well, the current situation in Rafah, as with the whole of Gaza, is really catastrophic. I mean, we're really seeing a population who have been displaced from place to place, and now they're suffering from the increasing bombing and the increasing ground incursion in Rafah, and hundreds of thousands of people are having to move again. And we're seeing a population that is not just having to face the direct consequences of this war, the bombings, the injuries, the burnings, the displacements, but also a population who are victim to a systematic destruction of the health system. So we're also seeing a deterioration in people's health status. We're seeing the silent killings as a result of the destruction of the infrastructure, destruction of the health system as a whole. And so really it is a situation which is getting worse and worse by the day.
Would you use the term genocide to describe what is happening in the Gaza Strip right now?
On the 26th of January, the International Court of Justice ruled on measures that needed to be implemented to prevent genocide in the Gaza Strip. And in particular, I would hone in on two of those. The first one being that around the protection of civilians, a protected group, the Gazans, and secondly, that around the provision and scale up of humanitarian assistance. And to my mind, neither of those orders are being adhered to. And we see that through the indiscriminate killings. We can see that in our hospitals, where we are seeing burn victims, men, women and children, blast victims, the horrific injuries of the indiscriminate bombing on one hand. And on the other hand, from a humanitarian aid perspective, we have seen Gaza under siege since the Rafah incursion. The crossings are even further limited since the Rafah crossing has become fully under control of the Israeli military, and we're not being able to move our people in and out. And that's in a situation where we have the north of Gaza, which is in a siege within a siege. So humanitarian assistance is on a knife edge in Gaza in terms of being able to continue to provide that assistance to the people that so desperately need it.
MSF has teams in many parts of the world, and you have experienced many wars. What are the particular difficulties concerning this conflict for you?
Yeah, you're right. We have we're active in war zones and conflict zones all around the world on a daily basis. But some of the key characteristics that we're seeing of this conflict are some of those things I was just touching on: the siege, the fact that you have a population who is trapped, who are being bombed and having to move around, and they've been forcibly displaced from place to place, but they actually have a very limited place in which they can move. And then there's the intensity of the conflict, and then there's the almost impossibility to bring aid in on one hand, but we must be nuanced about this, because it's not just about bringing aid in, it's about being able to deliver that to the people, to be able to treat people. The security situation is really horrific. We ourselves have had to abandon health facilities 12 times now since the start of this conflict, and we've been victim to many over 20 violent incidents. So all of that together make it a really unique and horrific place to be working.
Do you feel that Israel would prefer for MSF not to be in Gaza?
That's a question I can necessarily speculate on, but what I would say is that it's been incredibly hard to be able to fulfill our mandate, and I think that goes to humanitarian organizations as a whole. I mean, certainly we need there to be a massive scale up in terms of humanitarian assistance. It is not accurate that aid is flowing into Gaza anywhere near what is needed. But first and foremost, this is not about MSF. This is about the people of Gaza. And first and foremost, what the people of Gaza need, what we need, what the world needs is for this fighting to stop, and there to be a ceasefire, and to be a sustainable ceasefire that happens now and allows even just a moment of respite for people to be able to start to recover.
Even if the war ends tomorrow morning, can Gaza regain a reliable health system? How many resources should be allocated?
That's a huge and very relevant question. I mean, what we are seeing is a population which is really facing an epidemic of trauma, both physical and mental. We're going to have we're going to have a whole population, a whole generation of people who are going to be growing up with disabilities, with lost limbs. We're also going to be going to be a population of people growing with mental trauma. And so this is more than just rebuilding hospitals. This is rebuilding lives. This is being able to have people being able to get back to some degree of normality. So the reconstruction efforts will be massive, but we're a long way from that yet. I mean, the system has been destroyed. We're not even able to provide the most basic assistance in many areas of Gaza. So that's a very important question, but there are many questions before that to be able to, have the people be able to stop being subjected to the indiscriminate bombing, and then secondly, to be able to provide even the most basics of humanitarian assistance.
The war in the Gaza Strip continues to capture media attention. Yet, do you think there are conflicts that the international community chooses to ignore, for instance, in Sudan or Yemen?
Well, thank you for asking that question, because it's a grave concern of mine and for MSF in general. And take those two conflicts that you mentioned. If you look at the situation of Sudan at the moment, what we're seeing in terms of humanitarian needs, a really catastrophic situation there as well, and the ability to scale up to what is a reasonable humanitarian response is almost impossible there as well, and that's because of the security constraints that we're seeing. Also, the provision of the international community to be able to scale up. If you look at the refugee camps in Chad, there are massive funding constraints which are preventing organizations to come and join us, to come and join MSF on the Chadian side of the border. So yes, absolutely. In Yemen, in Sudan, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, all of these places are needing much more empathy, much more resources, and much more humanitarian response.
Thank you very much for your time, for this discussion.
Thank you.
Ευχαριστούμε και εσάς που μας παρακολουθήσατε. Μείνετε συντονισμένοι στο euronews.